What's going on, everyone? Welcome to a Monday edition of On Cue. Rich Quinones here. We are brought to you by our wonderful friends over at Play It Again Sports, 1450 Clements Bridge Road. Don't forget to check them out online. And with that being said, baseball season is right around the corner. All your equipment, new and slightly used, both balls, bats, gloves, accessories. And hey, coaches, if you need uniforms for your team or league call, email. We'll give you a quote as well. You can always ask about the sponsorship program and how they can help raise cash for your team or league. And of course, that's 1450 Clements Ridge Road in Deptford, New Jersey. All right, with that, a lot of football news and notes to kind of dive into as we break it down into two portions of the show today. Our good friend, host of Lloyd Vance's Inside of Football 1029 The Game, part of Broad Street South, at Lloyd Vance on X. Always kind enough to jump on board for a couple moments. And I thought it was going to be somewhat, noisy, but it's fast and it's furious as we get into the tampering, not tampering portion of the NFL season. But the big news comes down about 1 o'clock Eastern time in the morning. I guess Russell Wilson can now cook / marinate with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Schefter's reporting that looks to be a pretty much team-friendly 1-year deal as a bridge quarterback right now. And look, I know there was talk about maybe Russ, and the Giants, and Russ and Washington Commanders, and maybe Russ and the Raiders. But you look at a move like this, and it basically tells you that they have no belief in their young quarterbacks. They don't have any belief in Pickett. And I think this is a low risk, potential high reward if they can get something out of Russell Wilson. And as some of these other quarterbacks that we'll get into in a moment, their names start to drop and fall, we'll see if he really does have anything left. I mean, he's got to be an upgrade to the quarterback position that they've had.
Yeah, Q, and we talked earlier. There was a market out there for Russell Wilson. And there's several teams that are needy that need a quarterback, and they're not picking high enough in the draft that they're going to get one of these guys that coming out of college. So
Mm-hmm.
he had his opportunities, and when you're right, when you look at the Steelers, a team that made the playoffs in spite of their quarterback position. Yes, they got one of the last spots in the playoff picture. But Mason Rudolph was able to win some games down a stretch for them, and they're a team firmly based their defense around T.J. Watt and Highsmith and rest of the guys, and then offensively they're going to run the football with Najee Harris and make some timely throws down the field, and that's what Russell Wilson succeeds at. Q. So I think it's a good fit for him. As you said, it's a 1-year deal. It's only $1.21 million for that 1 year. Obviously, he's made a ton of money from the Denver
Yep.
Broncos, and he's going to sit on that money. And then Steelers are paying him like a backup, so it can help their salary cap. Mike Tomlin, we know, a no-nonsense coach. They want to protect the football, and that's what Russ is good at. I know we said he kind of a down year last year, but he threw for over 3,000 yards, 66% passing completion, 26 TDs, and only 8 interceptions. So
Yeah.
he's a veteran leader, 9-time Pro Bowler, and we'll see if at 35 years old he still has enough left. But I think he can be a good bridge quarterback, caretaker, as you're saying. And, the key will be how does he play against the Ravens, but we got to wait and see there.
You think this move, it seems like it was pretty fast and furious. The Steelers got it done. Wilson obviously wanted to get it done. Is this because maybe he believed to a man that there weren't going to be a ton of suitors out there for his services?
Well, he may have been like he felt like it was a good fit. He went to visit right away. Q. Obviously, the Broncos gave permission around March 4th or so to kind of seek a landing spot, and he went and visited. And I think he talked to the coaching staff. He felt very comfortable there. There may have been 1 or 2 other landing spots, as you were saying. Washington obviously is a place if they don't go in the draft position, they're looking the Atlanta Falcons as well, but pretty much in this draft, in this free agent class, it's Russell Wilson, it's Kirk Cousins. We got to
Yep.
see where he ends up landing, and then Baker Mayfield, who everyone believes is going to go back to Tampa Bay Bucs. So not a lot there in terms of free agency. So it seems like a good situation, but as always, Q, it's buyer beware. I always tell everybody that around this free agent frenzy, everybody gets a little crazy with their teams and you know who they picked up and everything like that. But free agents you want as a sprinkling. You don't want to have your roster populated by those guys. You got to build your roster through the draft. That's what every good GM that I've talked to has always said.
Yeah. So if you think about this, and we'll get into Mayfield, who did re-up, got a monster contract, good for him with Tampa Bay. But Wilson, you mentioned over 3,000 yards, 66 percentage completion percentage, 26 touchdowns, quarterback rating was 98. Conversely, Kenny Pickett, 2,000 yards, banged up, 62% completion percentage, 6 touchdowns, 81.4%. Obviously, forget about Rudolph as well. When you look at these wide receivers, Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, as you alluded to, at the landscape, the AFC North, who's to say Cleveland's going to get a Deshaun Watson, who was the Deshaun Watson with the Houston Texans? It doesn't seem like that's the case. Cincinnati, the window closing a little bit. Burrow is getting banged up here and there, but still plays at a high level. The Ravens just can't get over the hump. This may be now from a Pittsburgh standpoint, hey, we believe Russell Wilson can at least be that guy to maybe take us a little further in the division, perhaps win the division and make a deeper run into the playoffs. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here.
And as you're talking about, the breaking down each of those teams, it's a very competitive division. So, a lot can change in and out throughout the season, but each team can beat each other, and we see that on a weekly basis in this division. So, I think the Steelers think, they're pretty much always a 9-win team under Mike Tomlin. He's never had a losing season. Everybody always talks about that, but maybe Wilson could be the difference in about 2 to 3 games, move them up possibly into division contention. Right now they're in the playoff picture, but they're at the bottom of it. But the thing is, as you're saying, I really like what the Steelers are doing in terms of bringing him in, seeing what he has left, and a huge upgrade over Kenny Pickett, a guy who they drafted late in the first round. He was the only first round quarterback in his draft class, and they overreached for him. He just has not progressed the way they wanted him to. They benched him at the end of the season basically and let Rudolph take over. So I think Wilson have some good throws there. Johnson and Pickens like to get ball down the field, and he still has that big arm. So it's going to be fun to watch. But I still think he's only going to throw the ball about 25 to 30 times a game. This is a run-based team first.
Yeah. We mentioned Baker Mayfield, and look, I mean, he earned that contract and that opportunity to go back to Tampa Bay, at least in my estimation. I mean, they won a playoff game. They banged up on the Philadelphia Eagles. You got Mike Evans back. You got Baker Mayfield, reported value 100 million, actual value 40 million, the rest up to the team. And here's a guy that's kind of bounced around a little bit of a 3-year deal. He, I guess, bet on himself. 100 million, 50 million guaranteed. Good for Baker Mayfield. And Tampa Bay believes that, listen, I mean, for the next maybe 3, 4, 5 years, he can be the face of the franchise from the quarterback position.
The Glazer family, they wanted to bring this group back, and obviously, yeah, they won a very bad division, but they did have some ascension at the end of the season. They bring back Evans, bring back Mayfield. They tag Antoine Winfield, so they've done a lot of good things there. They may lose a couple older defensive guys, but they'll probably be able to place them in the draft. And this is a good situation for Baker Mayfield. We talk about this as his 4th team that he's been on, but last year he seemed his most comfortable he's been since his early years with the Browns, and he really clicked with his teammates there, the community, and he wanted to say so. It's a good opportunity for him, and we'll see if he's able to live up to his money.
Yeah, signed a 1-year deal worth $4 million is signed with the Bucs last year. Now that 3-year deal up to 115 plus the guarantee. That's not a bad pay raise. Then you got the New England Patriots basically giving up a bag of balls, getting rid of Mac Jones. So here's another franchise that's going to be quarterback needy. And then I thought one of the smart moves, and we'll get into the running backs on the other side, but one of the smart moves was Kansas City locking up Chris Jones. I mean, people will look and say, well, you're paying him a substantial amount of money. Look at the position, but ultimately you have to go with how the market kind of plays things out. And I mean, listen, I can get into the cap numbers, but I think it's a move that they had to make. He's an exceptional player. It's a 5-year contract ahead of NFL free agency. You knew he wasn't going to go anywhere. There would have been massive suitors for him. And look, he's to me, he's would have been the top ranked player, free agent player on the list heading into the offseason. So Kansas City did a good job locking him up.
Too. And it's a situation where Chris Jones is a guy they knew they had to have him. Brett Veach is a general manager, Andy Reid, and they knew he was the key to that
Yeah.
defense that did such a great job this season. So he wanted to come back. They pay him, and I think a big story this all season is in terms of these teams getting it done with their guys. They're bringing them back. I'm looking at my top free agents list. Q. You got Chris Jones coming back on a brand new contract. You have Josh Allen coming back on a free
Yeah.
franchise deal. Jalen Johnson for the Chicago Bears, he's coming back on a franchise deal. Brian Burns as well for the Carolina Panthers. So you're seeing these teams saying, you know what, we cannot let these guys get out the door now. Christian Wilkins did move from the Miami Dolphins going to the Raiders, but other than that, most of your top 10 guys are going to be back with their team this offseason.
Yeah, you got a first team All Pro, 2 consecutive years, Pro Bowl 5 times, about 273 tackles, close to 80 sacks, 78 tackles for losses. This is a guy that was drafted in the second round just a couple of years ago in the 2016 NFL draft. So Kansas City spending the money, locking up the players that they have to lock up. All right. On the other side, we'll get into some NFC East news. There's buzz circulating, Eagles, Saquon Barkley. I can give you my thoughts on that. On the other side, Fletcher Cox calling it a career. Little by little, this face of the franchise, the Eagles, are changing before our eyes. We'll give you the latest on some of the running backs as well that are moving all over the place and what it means. Keep it locked in on a Monday edition on Q alongside Lloyd Vance. Rich Quinones here. We'll talk to you coming back on the other side. As always, we're presented by Play It Again Sports.